When life breaks you, it doesn't ask for your permission. It comes silently, sometimes like a whisper in the dark, other times like a storm that tears everything apart. It doesn't wait for you to be ready. It doesn't care about your schedule, your goals, or your dreams. It arrives when you least expect it, and it takes what it wants. But what it cannot take, unless you give it up willingly, is your will to rise. You may feel crushed under the weight of your own shattered hopes, but deep inside, there is a spark that refuses to die. That spark is your spirit, your core, your truth. In moments of pain, people often ask, "Why me?" But the real question is, what now? Because the why will drive you mad, but the what gives you purpose. Life breaks everyone at some point. No one escapes unscarred. The scars you carry are not signs of weakness. They are symbols of survival. They are your proof that you stood in the fire and didn't vanish. They tell the story of a soul that bent but didn't snap, a heart that broke but kept beating. Every time you thought it was over, you were actually beginning again. When life brings you to your knees, remember that from your knees is where you pray, reflect, and find humility. It's the place where clarity is born and illusions fall away. You begin to see who you truly are, stripped of all the distractions, the titles, the external validations. You are left with your raw, unfiltered self. And that self, no matter how wounded, is worthy of love, growth, and redemption. Sometimes being broken is the only way to find the parts of yourself you never knew were missing. Pain has a way of reshaping you. It sharpens your vision. It teaches you to appreciate what matters. It quiets the noise and brings you face to face with truth. In pain, there is a strange kind of purity. You stop pretending. You stop running. You learn how to sit still with your own soul, even if it aches. You begin to understand that healing doesn't mean going back to who you were. It means becoming someone new, someone stronger, wiser, more grounded. You don't need to rush to healing. There is no deadline for recovery. This is not a race. It's a rebirth. You are being remade in fire, molded by the pressure. The brokenness you feel is not the end of your story. It's the forge of your next chapter. Let the pain teach you. Let it refine your character, reveal your values, and rewire your vision. Let it break your ego but not your essence. Let it destroy your illusions but not your integrity. There's strength in admitting that you're not okay. Real courage is not pretending to be unshaken. It's showing up despite the cracks. It's choosing to face each day, even when it hurts to breathe. There is unimaginable power in endurance, in resilience, in simply not giving up. Even when the world turns its back, even when you're left alone with your thoughts, even when everything seems lost. If you choose to keep going, you win a battle most will never see. Sometimes life breaks you because it's trying to wake you up. Maybe you were drifting. Maybe you were ignoring the signs. Maybe you were building a life that wasn't really yours. And so life stepped in, not to punish you, but to redirect you. Sometimes the destruction is the only path to reconstruction. The things that fall apart often make way for what you truly need. Trust the process, even when it feels unfair. Growth rarely feels good in the moment. It's uncomfortable. It's messy. It's lonely. But it's necessary. You are not your worst day. You are not your mistakes. You are not your failures. You are not the people who left you, the job you lost, or the dream that slipped away. You are the one who stayed, the one who endured, the one who held on even when everything said, let go. That kind of resilience is rare, and it is powerful. Don't underestimate the strength it takes just to survive. And when you start to heal, when the pieces begin to come back together, you will find that you are not just rebuilding, you are reinventing. There is a version of you waiting on the other side of this pain, a version who understands the value of every moment, who no longer wastes energy on things that don't matter, who speaks truthfully, loves deeply, and lives boldly. That version is born in the fire of now, in this exact moment where you feel like you are breaking. You're not falling apart, you're breaking open. The light is getting in. Let it. In the silence of suffering, you begin to discover truths that noise always covered up. You hear your inner voice more clearly, and while that voice might be trembling at first, it starts to grow louder with every breath you take. You begin to remember who you are, not who the world told you to be, not who your past mistakes shaped you to become, but the person you were born to be, the real you, the you that's still standing after everything tried to break you. Life doesn't break you to destroy you. It breaks you to rebuild you into something unshakable. It strips away the shallow so the deep can be seen. It takes the comfort so that courage can rise. You see, strength doesn't come from easy days. It is forged in chaos. It is discovered in the shadows. Every time you thought you were alone, something inside you held on. That something is your soul. And it's stronger than pain, deeper than fear, and louder than despair. Every broken moment you've survived has built your foundation. The nights you cried yourself to sleep, the days you could barely stand, the times you thought it would never get better. Those are your building blocks. Don't be ashamed of them. They're not signs of weakness. They're the evidence that you kept going. And that is strength. The world doesn't celebrate enough. But I will celebrate it for you because it matters. Because it defines who you are more than your victories ever could. People see the surface and assume your life is simple. But only you know the mountains you've climbed silently, the wars you've fought in your mind, the storms you've walked through with no umbrella. And yet, here you are, still breathing, still trying. That alone makes you worthy of everything good that's coming. You don't need to prove yourself. You just need to believe that the broken version of you still holds power. In fact, it might be the most powerful version you've ever known. When life breaks you, you start to understand the value of small things. A genuine smile, a kind word, a hand on your shoulder, a sunrise that reminds you that another day has come. You beg to see beauty in places you never noticed before. Because now, you know how fragile life is. And that awareness makes you more alive than you've ever been. It wakes you up. It brings you into the moment. It softens your heart while strengthening your will. There will be people who won't understand your journey. That's okay. It's not for them to understand. They didn't walk through your fire. They didn't sit with you in your darkness. They didn't feel your pain crawl through your chest in the dead of night. You don't owe anyone an explanation for why you're healing the way you are. You don't owe anyone a version of yourself that makes them comfortable. You owe yourself truth. You owe yourself grace. You owe yourself time. Sometimes, when you've been broken deeply, you start to rebuild differently. You don't chase approval anymore. You don't shrink to fit into spaces that never saw your worth. You stop apologizing for your feelings. You realize that your pain taught you boundaries. Your loss taught you appreciation. Your trauma taught you resilience. And while you would never wish for the suffering, you honor the transformation. Because who you are now is someone who knows what truly matters. Healing is not linear. Some days you'll feel like you've made progress. Other days, you'll feel like you've fallen back into the hole you tried so hard to escape. That's normal. That's human. But every step, even the backward ones, are part of the path forward. Be patient with yourself. Speak to yourself with kindness. You've been through enough pain. Don't add your own voice to the list of things that try to break you. Be your own sanctuary, your own protector, your own peace. Life breaks us all differently. Some lose loved ones, some lose their dreams, some lose themselves. But all of us share one thing: the ability to choose what we do next. That choice defines us more than the pain ever could. Will you let the pain chain you, or will you let it shape you? Will you stay stuck in the story of loss, or will you write a new chapter of strength? You get to decide. And that decision is where your power begins. You don't have to know what the future holds to keep going. You just need to trust that this moment won't last forever. That you are healing, even if it doesn't feel like it yet. That something within you still believes. And that belief, that tiny, fragile flame, is all you need to begin again. Not just to survive, but to rebuild, to reclaim, to rise. You see, there's no blueprint for surviving being broken. No handbook, no checklist, no universal guide. You simply live through it, moment by moment, breath by breath. Some days you move forward by inches. Other days, just waking up feels like climbing Everest. But every day you survive, every single day, is a victory. And those victories stack up, slowly and silently, until one day you look around and realize you've come a long way from the pain that once defined you. The people who've been broken often carry a quiet wisdom in their eyes. They understand life differently. They listen more closely, love more deeply, and judge less harshly. Because when you've been broken, you realize how fragile everyone else is too. And that changes you. It makes you softer in the best ways, but also stronger where it matters. You start seeing people not for who they pretend to be, but for who they are under the surface. You become someone others trust, not because you're perfect, but because you're real. When life breaks you, you start learning the power of surrender, not as weakness, but as clarity. You stop trying to control every outcome. You begin to release the illusion that you were ever in control of anything but your own effort and your own mindset. And in that surrender, there's peace. You find strength not in having all the answers, but in trusting that you'll figure it out, one choice at a time, one experience at a time. That's what rising looks like. Not loud, not flashy, just persistent. The pressure to bounce back after a major loss or trauma is immense. But sometimes you don't bounce back. Sometimes you rise in a completely different direction. You don't return to who you were. You evolve into who you were meant to be. And there's no shame in that. There's no shame in being changed by pain. In fact, it's one of the most human things about us. We are constantly shaped by what we go through. We are meant to be changed. We are meant to grow. Every wound has a voice. It asks you to listen, to reflect, to feel, but not to stay there. Your wounds are not your identity. They are the soil in which strength grows. And strength is not always visible. It's the decision to show up anyway. It's the whisper that says, "Not today," when despair knocks. It's the refusal to let your story end in the middle of the storm. And storms do end, even when they feel endless. The clouds do part, and when they do, the light feels warmer than you ever remembered. You've been broken, yes, but have you also noticed how breaking revealed parts of you that were hidden before? How it awakened empathy, deepened your relationships, stripped away your fear of starting over? That's the hidden gift of hardship. It refines you. It doesn't take away your worth. It clarifies it. It reminds you that your value was never in your success or your image, but in your perseverance, your heart, your will to rise again and again. You are not fragile just because you feel deeply. You are not weak because you cry, because you miss people, because you care more than others understand. Those qualities are your strength. In a world that often numbs emotion, you are still alive. You still feel, and that makes you powerful beyond measure. Because people who have been broken and still choose to love, still choose to believe, still choose to try, that's a rare and holy kind of courage. There will be days when memories pull you back, when the weight of the past tries to anchor you. On those days, remind yourself that you are not that version of you anymore. You are becoming. You are moving. You are healing. The scars don't mean you're still in pain. They mean you've closed the wounds. They are not reminders of weakness, but of healing. Let them be your armor, not your chains. As you move forward, you'll start to rebuild your life with intention. You'll keep what serves you and release what doesn't. You'll start saying no to things that drain you. You'll protect your peace like a sacred space. Because when you've had your life shattered, you understand how valuable inner calm really is. You understand that happiness isn't found in noise or validation. It's found in stillness, in honesty, in presence. So keep going, even if no one claps, even if no one understands, even if it feels like you're dragging yourself forward, because what you're doing matters. What you're building matters. You're not just surviving, you're creating something new out of the ashes. And that is one of the most courageous things a person can ever do. The road back from brokenness is not paved with perfection. It's paved with persistence, with long nights and lonely mornings, with unanswered questions and silent victories, with showing up even when your heart is heavy and your energy is low. It's about doing the small things, the boring things, the hard things, over and over again, because somewhere deep down, you know your future depends on your endurance. And that kind of strength isn't something you're born with. It's something you earn, day by day, through effort and choice. There's a sacred power in choosing to get back up. Every time life knocks you down and you stand up anyway, something in you changes. You become more rooted, more aware, more awake. You stop running from pain and start running toward truth. That's what breaking does. It forces you to face everything you've been avoiding. And yes, it hurts. But it also sets you free. Free from the masks you wore, free from the expectations that never fit you, free from the lies you told yourself to feel safe. You may never go back to the person you were before life broke you. And that's a good thing. Because that version of you hadn't yet learned what you now know. That version hadn't yet discovered how strong, how wise, how capable you could be. Pain grows you in ways comfort never could. It gives you eyes to see what truly matters, and hands willing to do the work to protect it. It gives you a fire inside that says, I've been to hell, and I'm not going back. And let's be honest, some people will never understand your transformation. They'll question your changes, your boundaries, your silence. They'll ask why you're different, why you don't tolerate what you once did. That's okay. You're not here to be understood by everyone. You're here to protect the growth you earned. You're here to walk your truth, even if others don't walk with you. One of the hardest things about being broken is realizing that the world keeps moving while you're trying to heal. People keep laughing, the sun keeps rising, bills keep coming, and you have to somehow participate in a life that feels unfamiliar. But even in that struggle, there is purpose. You're learning how to live differently. You're learning how to exist while healing. That's one of the most powerful skills a human being can develop, functioning with a broken heart and still choosing love. You start realizing that your worth isn't tied to what you do, how much you produce, or who accepts you. Your worth is in your existence, and the fact that you are still here, still trying, still hoping. That's worth celebrating. That's strength. And when you finally begin to see yourself with the eyes of compassion instead of criticism, everything changes. The way you talk to yourself shifts. The way you hold space for your pain softens. You stop fighting your brokenness and start embracing your becoming. Because you are becoming. With every scar, every tear, every moment of doubt, you are becoming someone new. someone more aligned, more grounded, more awake. That is not weakness. That is growth. That is rebirth. And rebirth is rarely pretty. It's messy. It's hard. It's filled with false starts and breakdowns. But it's real. And what's real will last. You don't have to rush it. Just honor it. Respect the process. Let it unfold at its own pace. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is simply breathe. Sit still. Feel the pain without needing to fix it immediately. Let it pass through you instead of around you. Let it teach you instead of torment you. Let it shape you instead of stop you. This is where your power lives, not in your ability to avoid pain, but in your willingness to face it, to sit with it, to learn from it. That's how warriors are born, not in battle, but in surrender, not through aggression, but through awareness. You'll start to notice that life doesn't get easier, but you get stronger. The things that once broke you no longer hold the same power. The triggers that once sent you spiraling now need a grounded soul. You've done the inner work. You faced the shadows. You've walked through the fire. And you didn't just survive, you grew. You turned pain into purpose, loss into learning, fear into fuel. That's what it means to rise after being broken. That's what it means to truly live. And as you keep going, remember that healing is not selfish. Choosing peace is not weakness. Saying no to what hurts you is not being difficult. It's being honest. It's being free. You don't have to carry everything forever. You're allowed to set it down. You're allowed to release the weight. You're allowed to be light again, to smile again, to dream again. And when that day comes, when you finally feel whole, you'll realize that life breaking you wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something greater. When you've been broken by life, even joy feels different. It's no longer loud or dependent on grand events. It becomes a quiet peace in your soul. It shows up in the way you breathe easier, in the way you find comfort in silence, in how deeply you appreciate a moment of calm. Joy is no longer something you chase. It becomes something you create, something you allow, something you grow. Because you understand its value now. You know how precious it is when you've spent time in the darkness. You start to rebuild your identity piece by piece, not based on who others said you were, but on who you choose to become. And in that rebuilding, you realize how much power you actually have. You can forgive where necessary. You can let go of guilt that was never yours to carry. You can reimagine your path. Life may have shattered the glass, but you still hold the frame. You still hold the story. And that story is not finished. Not by pain, not by failure, not by anyone who tried to silence your voice. Often, when we're broken, we try to go back to normal. But there is no going back. There's only going forward. The person you were before cannot handle the life you are building now. That version of you wasn't built to carry this wisdom, this fire, this calling. That version had to fall apart so you could step into something higher, something stronger. You were never meant to remain in that shell. Your breaking was the beginning of becoming. Grief, loss, betrayal, trauma. None of these come without deep emotional weight. But they also come with deep insight. They strip you of the illusion of control and comfort, and they reveal the essence of who you are. And who you are, beneath all the expectations and pain, is someone capable of rebuilding. Someone who can redefine meaning. Someone who can give to the world in ways only a broken heart can. Raw, real, compassionate. You don't need to rush your healing. You don't need to fake being okay. This world has created a culture where strength is seen as silence, and weakness as vulnerability. But real strength is in showing up truthfully. It's in saying, I'm hurting, but I'm still here. It's in letting the tears fall and still getting up the next morning to face the day. That's not weakness. That's courage. That's the kind of strength that transforms lives. Not just your own, but others who are watching. silently hoping they can do it too. You become an example, not by being perfect, but by being present, by walking your path with honesty, by admitting when you fall and sharing how you stand again. Your journey becomes a light for those lost in their own pain. You become a mirror that reflects the possibility of recovery, of growth, of redemption. The same hands that once trembled under pressure can now lift someone else from the edge. That is power. That is purpose. Even your fears shift. Where once you feared failing, or losing, or being judged, now you fear living without meaning. You begin to crave truth, authenticity, peace. Not applause, not appearance. Your heart longs for things deeper than success. It longs for connection, for clarity, for a life built on purpose. And in that longing, you begin to listen to your intuition more than the noise of the world. That voice inside you, once drowned out, is now the compass that leads you forward. Some people won't understand the depth of your transformation. That's because your breaking didn't happen in front of them. It happened quietly, in your bedroom, in your thoughts, in moments you never shared. They didn't hear your cries or feel your emptiness. So don't expect them to understand the strength of your rise. They weren't there, but you were. You saw what it took. You know what it cost. And that makes your rise sacred, no matter who sees it. There will be moments when the past still tries to haunt you. A memory, a place, a smell. It'll bring it all back. But the difference now is that you're no longer the same. The pain doesn't own you anymore. You've looked it in the face. You've made peace with what you couldn't control. You've forgiven yourself for surviving the only way you knew how. And now, when those old shadows appear, you walk through them, not around them. You're no longer avoiding. You're confronting. You're healing. In time, you stop calling it brokenness. You begin calling it rebirth. You stop seeing yourself as a victim and begin recognizing yourself as a survivor. And eventually, you become something even more powerful, a creator of your own peace, your own purpose, your own legacy. You realize that you're not defined by what happened to you. You are defined by how you respond, how you rebuild, and how you rise again and again. You begin to trust the process more. You start to understand that life isn't just about winning, achieving, or having it all figured out. It's about experiencing, feeling, falling, getting back up. It's about becoming. You stop asking, why me? And start asking, what can I learn from this? That shift, though small, changes everything. Because now, even your pain has purpose. Even your struggles have a lesson. You're no longer just surviving, you're evolving. There's a quiet grace in carrying pain with dignity. It doesn't mean you don't hurt. It means you've made peace with the pain's presence. You stop resenting the cracks in your soul and begin seeing them as places where the light enters. You begin living from a place of authenticity, not pretense. You're no longer performing for the world. You're living for your truth. And the freedom that comes with that is worth more than any applause or approval you once chased. Healing isn't linear. Some days you'll feel like you've moved mountains. Other days, the weight of a single thought will feel unbearable. That's okay. Growth is not about consistency. It's about direction. Are you moving forward? Are you showing up? Are you making space for yourself to be human? Then you're healing. Then you're winning. Progress isn't about how fast you move. It's about how bravely you keep moving when it would be easier to stop. And somewhere along the way, you notice you're smiling again. Maybe not as often, maybe not as wide, but it's real. It's genuine. You start enjoying things again. Music, sunsets, coffee, laughter. The world that once felt so dim begins to glow again. Slowly, quietly, beautifully. And that glow isn't because life got easier. It's because you got stronger. You learned how to find joy in places pain once lived. You learn how to carry hope even when your hands still tremble. The way you see others begins to shift too. You start recognizing pain in the eyes of strangers. You offer compassion without judgment. You no longer look at people through the lens of assumptions. You look at them through the lens of experience. You know what it feels like to hurt in silence. You know what it's like to need someone to care. So you become the kind of person who holds space for others, because you know how valuable that space is when you feel lost. Your priorities realign. What used to matter, status, image, validation, begins to fade. What matters now is peace, is authenticity, is being true to yourself. You protect your time. You distance yourself from chaos. You choose your company carefully, because your energy is sacred now. You no longer chase people who make you feel small. You no longer beg for love that's inconsistent. You've learned that your presence is a gift, and not everyone deserves it. You forgive, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. You let go, not because it didn't matter, but because carrying it forward costs too much. You stop replaying the past and begin living in the present. Because this moment, this breath, is all you're guaranteed. And you want to live it fully, truthfully, boldly. You've earned the right to be happy. You've fought for it. You've bled for it. And now, you protect it with everything you have. There is still a long world ahead. Life will bring more trials, more unknowns, more breaking points. But you're not afraid of them anymore. Not because you've become invincible, but because you've become resilient. You know that no matter what comes, you will not be destroyed. You will bend, but not break. You will feel, but not fall apart. You will rise, again and again, because that's who you are now. You're no longer defined by what broke you. You're defined by how you built yourself back. So, you walk differently now. Not arrogantly, but steadily. Not loudly, but purposefully. You carry the weight of your story with pride, not shame. You've walked through hell and came out holding light. You faced the worst and chose to keep living. That makes you powerful. That makes you rare. That makes you someone the world desperately needs. And no matter what lies ahead, no matter how many more times life challenges your spirit, remember this. You've already proven that you can survive the breaking. Now it's time to thrive in the rebuilding. Eventually, you reach a place where your wounds don't sting the way they used to. They still exist. The scars are still visible. But they no longer define your narrative. They become part of it. A testament, proof that you endured, that you overcame, that you made it out of a storm not many even knew you were in. That is no small thing. You don't need to wear your scars like shame. Wear them like armor, like art, like wisdom etched into your being, because they are reminders, not of pain, but of perseverance. There will come a day when you look back and hardly recognize the broken version of yourself, the one who cried alone, questioned everything, doubted their worth. You'll see them with compassion, not judgment, and you'll realize how far you've come, not because the world told you so, but because you feel it, in your peace, in your balance, in the way you no longer react to chaos, but respond with clarity. That's healing. That's growth. That's rising. You start becoming a safe place for yourself and for others. You don't try to fix everyone anymore. You simply show up. You listen. You understand. You hold space. Because you've learned the power of presence. You've learned that healing doesn't always require answers, just attention, just love, just truth. The kind of truth that says, I see you, I hear you, and you're not alone. That's something only someone who's been broken can offer fully, because you know how much that kind of presence matters. The beauty of being broken is that it strips away illusion. It forces you to see what's real, about yourself, about others, about life. You become less interested in surface-level things and more invested in the roots, in substance, in honesty. You stop chasing moments that impress others and start creating moments that fulfill you. You let go of the urge to perform and begin leaning into the courage to be seen, to be whole, to be deeply, unapologetically you. You find power in boundaries. You realize that saying no is not rejection, it's protection. You begin to preserve your energy like a sacred flame, because you've learned how draining it is to give endlessly and receive nothing. You've learned that not everyone deserves access to your soul. And that's not bitterness, it's wisdom. It's discernment. It's growth. You're no longer available for dysfunction disguised as love. You've redefined what love means, and it starts with how you treat yourself. People might say you've changed, and they're right. You have. Pain changed you. Truth changed you. Survival changed you. But most of all, healing changed you. It softened you and strengthened you at the same time. It taught you how to bend without breaking, how to cry without collapsing, how to hope even after being shattered. That kind of transformation cannot be taught in books. It is lived. It is earned. It is honored by those who have walked through it. You become someone who no longer seeks perfection, but wholeness. You accept your flaws without shame. You hold your past with reverence, not regret. You forgive yourself for the times you didn't know better. You stop comparing your timeline to others. You begin to trust that what's meant for you will find you, and what isn't will fall away. That trust doesn't come from ignorance. It comes from experience. You've learned the hard way that forcing things only leads to more breaking. Eventually, you stop living for the outcome and start living for the process, the daily steps, the quiet victories, the slow unfolding. Life is no longer about where you're going, but how you're walking. And you walk with grace now, with intention, with purpose. Not because everything is perfect, but because you found meaning, even in the imperfect. You realize that life isn't about escaping the pain. It's about integrating it, letting it teach you, letting it shape you, letting it fuel the fire within. And through it all, there is a quiet voice inside of you. It doesn't scream. It doesn't beg. It simply whispers, keep going. It reminds you that you didn't come this far just to stop here. That the breaking didn't end you. It awakened you. That you are not your past. You are your possibilities. And those possibilities are infinite when you believe in the strength that carried you through the darkness. This is the journey of becoming, not in spite of being broken, but because of it. As time moves forward, you begin to embrace stillness. You find value in the quiet moments where nothing dramatic is happening. Just breath, just being, just life as it is. You realize that healing isn't always loud or triumphant. Sometimes it's the simple act of sitting with yourself without judgment. Sometimes it's choosing not to numb the pain, but to feel it all and still choose peace. You understand now that progress doesn't always look like running. It sometimes looks like resting. And resting is also rising. There's something sacred about the moments you thought would destroy you but didn't. When the pain was too great, the weight too heavy, and yet you somehow made it through. You remember how you once begged for the pain to stop, how you pleaded with the silence for a sign that things would get better. And here you are, maybe still bruised, maybe still tender, but here, still here. That's the kind of strength that no one sees but everyone feels when they encounter you. You learn that the most powerful transformations happen in private. Not everything needs to be posted, shared, or proven. Some growth is just for you. Some victories are meant to be celebrated in the privacy of your heart, because those are the moments that rewire your soul. That's when you build your internal fortress, not made of pride or ego, but of truth, grace, and resilience. You know now that silence isn't empty. It's full of answers, full of growth, full of renewal. And in that renewal, you find your voice. A voice that is no longer afraid to speak truth, even when it shakes. A voice that refuses to stay silent when it matters. You've been through enough to know the cost of silence. You've been quiet long enough. Now, your voice carries weight, not just for yourself, but for those who haven't yet found theirs. You speak not to be loud, but to be clear, to be honest, to be a reminder that broken people still have something to say. Something important, something necessary. People may ask where your confidence comes from now, and the answer won't be found in titles, money, or appearance. It will come from everything you've endured, from the nights you didn't give up, from the times you held yourself together with nothing but hope and breath. That kind of confidence is unshakable, because it's built on truth. You're no longer pretending. You stopped apologizing for taking up space. You've earned every inch of it. Relationships change when you're broken and start healing. Some will no longer fit the new version of you. Some will walk away because they were only drawn to your pain, not your power. That's okay. Let them go. Not everyone is meant to walk every mile with you. Some were only there to teach you, to mirror your wounds, to push you toward growth. Honor their role, then release them. You're not obligated to stay where you no longer grow. There's a shift that happens when you start choosing yourself. It's not selfish, it's sacred. You begin prioritizing what nourishes you, what aligns with your values, what adds peace instead of pressure. You realize how often you abandoned yourself trying to be accepted, how often you sacrificed your truth for comfort, but not anymore. You've reclaimed your worth, and now you protect it with fierce compassion. This kind of evolution doesn't happen overnight. It's slow, sometimes painful, but it's also beautiful. It's the rebuilding of a life with intention. No longer chasing what looks good, but choosing what feels right. You wake up and live from your heart, not your fear. You don't measure your day by how much you achieved, but by how deeply you stayed connected to who you are. And that, in itself, is success. You're learning to love again, starting with yourself. The version of love that's patient, kind, forgiving. The version that sees the whole of you, the messy, the wild, the wounded, and still says, "You're worthy." That kind of love is not found in someone else. It's discovered in the journey of coming home to yourself. You stop begging others to love you right and begin showing yourself what it feels like to be seen, held, valued. And from that space, love becomes an overflow, not a pursuit. Life will still throw challenges your way, but you've changed now. You're not reacting the way you used to. You're choosing your response. You're grounded. You've learned to trust your instincts. You're no longer driven by fear, but led by purpose. You've learned that life isn't about avoiding the pain. It's about finding your power in the middle of it. Because when life breaks you, it also reveals you. And what's been revealed is someone strong, wise, and unstoppable. There comes a point where you stop seeing life as something that's happening to you and start seeing it as something that's happening through you. Every setback, every heartbreak, every failure, they no longer feel like punishments, but preparation. You recognize how each of them sharpened your awareness, deepened your compassion, and shaped your ability to rise with intention. What once felt like destruction now feels like design. Like your pain was guiding you home to your purpose. You begin to understand that true strength is gentle. It's not in how hard you hit back, but in how softly you keep showing up. It's in how you speak to yourself when no one's listening. It's in the choice to keep loving when the world has given you every reason to go numb. You don't have to become cold to survive. You just have to become wise. You just have to become rooted. And now you are. Grounded not in perfection, but in presence. The beauty of this transformation is that it's not just for you. As you heal, you become a mirror of what's possible. People who are still in the dark will see your light and feel less alone. Your story becomes a survival guide for someone else. Your honesty, your courage, your scars, they give others permission to stop pretending and start healing. That's how the cycle of strength grows. That's how legacies are built. not by perfection, but by truth. There's no final destination in this journey, no moment where everything is suddenly easy, but there is peace, there is purpose, there is clarity, and it's found in your commitment to keep walking, even when the road is uncertain. It's found in your decision to choose growth over comfort, love over fear, faith over doubt. That daily decision makes you powerful beyond words. You don't need motivation. You've built discipline. You don't need validation. You've built self-trust. The voices in your head that once screamed doubt and fear now begin to soften. They're still there, but they don't lead anymore. Because your new voice, the one forged in silence, suffering, and survival, has taken over. That voice speaks truth. That voice says, "You've got this. You've done hard things before. You will do them again." That voice knows the road because it's walked it. That voice doesn't lie. It liberates. You start to recognize the beauty in ordinary things again. A deep breath, a good conversation, the warmth of sunlight on your face. These moments become sacred. You no longer need drama to feel alive. You no longer seek chaos because you found calm. And in that calm, there is power. In that calm, you remember who you were before the world told you who to be. You remember the innocence, the dreams, the light, and you begin to reclaim it. Not everything broken needs to be fixed in the way we expect. Sometimes the healing is in learning to carry the cracks with grace. Sometimes it's in recognizing that what fell apart actually freed you from a version of life that was too small. You didn't lose control. You were being invited to surrender. And in that surrender, you found your soul. You discovered the vastness of who you truly are. And that discovery changes everything. You begin to see your past not as a chain, but as a foundation. You stop trying to erase what happened and instead use it as fuel. Your story becomes your strength. You learn how to alchemize pain into purpose, wounds into wisdom, heartbreak into hope. That alchemy is not magic, it's choice. And you make that choice daily, even when it's hard, even when it hurts. Because now you've seen what's on the other side of breaking, and it's breathtaking. You forgive again and again, not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough to release the weight. You forgive yourself for staying too long, for silencing your needs, for not knowing better. You extend the same grace to others, not to excuse them, but to set yourself free. Because holding on to resentment never healed a single soul, but letting go, that's where peace lives. That's where liberation begins. And now, every breath you take is a declaration. I am still here. Not the same person you once were, but someone far more powerful. Someone refined by fire. Someone who can walk into any storm and know that they will not be destroyed. You carry yourself differently now, not with arrogance, but with unwavering presence. The world can no longer shake you the way it once did, because you've already met the end and decided to begin again. Now you understand that life is not about avoiding the break. It's about learning to rebuild, again and again, if necessary. It's about creating meaning where there once was only loss. It's about crafting beauty out of the ashes, not pretending the fire never happened. You become the kind of person who no longer fears endings because you've mastered the art of beginning again. You walk into the unknown not with dread, but with curiosity, because you've been broken, and somehow that has made you more whole than you ever imagined possible. You start living from the inside out. Your peace no longer depends on people's approval or the world's applause. It's rooted in something deeper, something the world can't touch. You've seen the dark. You've faced the storm. You've listened to the silence. And in all of it, you discovered something sacred, yourself. Not the version that was shaped to please others, but the real you, the one who speaks truth, loves deeply, stands firm, and moves with purpose. There's a dignity in how you carry your past now. You no longer hide it. You own it. You walk with your head high, not because you've had an easy journey, but because you didn't let the hard one break your soul. You carry your experiences like armor, not like baggage. Every lesson, every wound, every fall, etched into you like a personal scripture of survival. You are a walking story of what it means to endure, to overcome, to rise again. Your pain gave you sight, and now you see things others miss. You see the ones who are silently hurting. You notice the wariness in their eyes. You hear what isn't said. And because you've been there, you love differently. You show up. You extend grace. You understand without needing explanation. You become a safe place in a world full of noise. And that is a quiet power. A radical strength born not of pretending to have it all together, but of embracing the beauty of being real. Gratitude becomes your language, not just for the victories, but for the valleys. For the things that broke you, because they revealed you. For the days you thought you wouldn't survive, because they taught you what strength really is. You stop waiting for some perfect moment to be thankful and start finding awe in the present, in the now, in the simple miracle of breath, of being, of starting over. Life becomes less about chasing and more about cherishing. You learn to celebrate your own pace, no longer rushed by the world's timelines or weighed down by comparison. Your journey is yours, unique, sacred, authentic. You stop measuring yourself by what others are doing and begin honoring the rhythm of your own becoming. You move with intention, not urgency. You trust the timing of your healing. You understand that everything good that is meant for you will not require you to lose yourself to attain it. You become more discerning with your energy. You no longer pour into things that drain you. You no longer settle for half-hearted connections or conditional love. You know your worth now. And not in a loud, performative way, but in the quiet conviction that says, I will no longer shrink to fit places I've outgrown. That kind of self-awareness doesn't come from comfort. It comes from collapse. And you've earned every ounce of it. Faith grows in the aftermath of breaking. Not blind faith, but real faith. The kind that was forged in nights you prayed with trembling hands, and mornings you rose despite feeling hollow. The kind that stayed when everything else walked away. Now you believe not because someone told you to, but because you've lived it. You've seen what grace looks like when you had nothing left. You've witnessed the strength of your own spirit, and it has made you unshakable. Joy becomes your rebellion. In a world that tries to keep you small, your happiness becomes an act of courage. You don't wait for permission to smile again, to dream again, to love again. You simply decide that your story is not over. That broken does not mean buried, that there's more life inside you, and you will live it fully, deeply, unapologetically. That is the rise. That is the revolution within. When life breaks you, it doesn't destroy you. It initiates you into a deeper kind of wisdom, into a more profound strength, into a grace that cannot be taught, only lived. You become the proof that pain can produce beauty, that scars can shine, that broken people can become beacons of light. And as you walk forward, whole, worthy, powerful, know this: you were never truly broken. You were being reshaped, refined, revealed. And now you are ready to live, not in spite of what happened, but because of who you became through it. This is not the end. This is your beginning.